All right, so we're here with this incredible guest today. Ashley is here, and she's everything involved with apples. She's from a terrific farm in New Jersey. And how do you actually pronounce that farm?
Ryamede Farm
Ryamede
here in
Farms.
Chester, New Jersey.
And what's interesting about this apple orchard, I always say anybody that can, has more than 20 acres, you got your hands full. And this orchard is about what, 54 acres is what I saw?
It's actually 68 all told.
68. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so I've been here before a couple of times. I had a chance to taste the delicious apple, walk the grounds, which was very peaceful, and of course try some things like cider donuts at that time. So everything was really good. But I thought it would be a great opportunity because for some strange reason, our main word when it comes to like the highest analytical search word is apples. And I just thought it would be great to get someone on that I've at least tried their products and visited their farm and can back it up to true that if the masses start to go in there, they're not going to say, hey, why'd you send me there? So with that being said, tell us a little bit about yourself and this incredible orchard. How did you get started? How long have you been there, et cetera?
Well, thanks so much for inviting me to join you today. This is really fun. I love talking about apples. My name's Ashley Asdal. I'm a Chester resident. I grew up here, spent 15 years in the Navy, nice. Which has nothing to do with apples. I'm really also quite good at air defense and driving a 300-foot destroyer. But I finished up my career, and a family friend was looking for someone to take over the orchard. She was very sick, and she looked around and said, I know Ashley's thinking about getting out of the Navy. She likes leading people. She likes making tough choices. She likes the action. And let me tell you, fall weekend at Ryamede Farm is where the action is. It's really
nice.
Fun.
It is really fun. So you took over this incredible large estate with with these apples. I mean, do you have to know anything special about taking care of apples? I mean,
I have an amazing farm manager. His name's Jamie Bourgeois. He's been here for 15 years since he's a Rutgers Ag School graduate. And so he has been teaching me, and I've been taking classes. There's some really great stuff up at Cornell. Rutgers has a really nice ag extension program. These big land grant universities work with farmers to get us up to speed. And so Jamie does a lot of the decision-making, or helps me with the decision-making in terms of like sprays, exactly how much water needs to go on where. But conceptually, running the orchard, you got to learn by doing, right? These are very, very specific places. Every farm, the soil is different across, from 1 acre to the next, much less one farm to the next, what the climate is. How does that affect the trees you can grow that really changes even from the Melics down the street in Long Valley and Califon to me. We grow different stuff based on the different climate, little microclimates that we're in.
Interesting. There's so many people that write in and they say, I want to start a farm. I want to be a farmer. I want to live off the grid. I want to, be closer to nature. Let's say someone wanted to get into the apple orchard business, but they weren't fortunate enough to buy, a 68 acre or 62, whatever you had said, estate like that. How long would it take for somebody to start doing this? I mean, are you still planting apple trees or no?
Yeah, this is a super capital intensive business. It is hard. And, you wonder why you're paying an entry fee to come into an orchard or what the price per pound is. Like, you're working on essentially 2 months worth of income here, right? September and October, and you got to feed the family all the way back to the next August, right? 2 months. So that's tough. So this orchard the farm has been here since the 1740s here in Chester. It's a really, really old farm. The land has been in essentially constant cultivation since before the Revolution. The apple trees were planted between 1948 and 1952 by Mr. Mead, who named the farm after his wife, Raya, which is why nobody can pronounce it, because Raya Mead, that's impossible.
Right. I didn't want to butcher it.
But yeah, so it's really unique here in particular. If you went to an apple nursery, and said, I want to buy some trees. How long are they going to last? They'll tell you maybe 40 years, right? And these are going on 75.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And that's a testament. When you talk to farmers, you know how they have this kind of like, it's generational, right? Like it's this long-term view of care of the land that they are working. And it's true, right? I mean, these trees, that 75 years, that's 4 generations of farmers on these trees.
I mean, how much fruit does one tree produce? Like, in other words, if you had to plant it from, like, I don't know, the 1 foot level, how long would it take to grow, to produce fruit? And how much fruit would be on that tree to pick?
It totally depends. So there's kind of these big trees that we're growing, which are very unique. Most people are not growing them for a variety of reasons, including they're just very inefficient, space inefficient, hard to pick, hard to prune. But that's the standard until about 1962. People were planting like this. Those trees, maybe, I don't know, 20 bushels, 25 bushels of apples. And a bushel is like 60-ish pounds. So a lot of apples. But the commercial standard these days is actually to grow almost like a grapevine. They're called dwarfing trees. I don't know if you've seen them at other orchard. But those, in terms of space, can produce something almost like 100 times the number of apples by volume or by acre. They require some more water. But they come into production a lot earlier. These big trees, the seedling trees, can take 15 years really to come to full commercial production. So essentially, we're always planting, right? If you have 30 acres of apples, you got to be moving at least 5, 6, 7% of them every single year, removing and replenishing for that to cover you, basically.
No, that's
if
crazy.
That makes sense. So we planted almost 1,000 trees last year.
Oh, great. And out of the 1,000, all 1,000 will grow, or you have a couple of trees that'll die out?
There's probably a couple of bum ones.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, when you plant them, are you planting them in are you planting small trees, or are you planting large trees? I mean, because 15 years to get fruit, that's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah. The dwarfing trees will produce their first apple at 4 years and be in pretty full production at 6, which is much better. It's still a long time, right? If you wanted to start an apple orchard, I'd say be doing something else and do an apple orchard on the side, because there's no income for a long time.
Exactly, right.
Basically there's 3 sizes of trees. There's the dwarfing, a semi-dwarfing, and then a standard sized tree. We plant the standard sized trees in the holes where the old ones are. Basically, like if an old one dies, which they do now, they're 75 years old, we'll put a big one back in, because I think that it's a good look and it's really nice. And I think that's very unique about Runnymede, is that we're growing these big trees and it kind of feels like a park instead of a commercial orchard in some ways. I don't know if you walked around and felt like it feels spacious.
Oh, yeah. No, coming from a city boy like myself to being in a little bit of peace, I would say that was a serenity move right there. But
it feels good. But also I got to get some production on. So we also planted, we took out 40 trees and we planted 900 in their place.
Wow. Right.
I mean, it's just a crazy.
So, I mean, how many trees do you need to be profitable? I mean, you go back to what you said. I mean, you have one crop, it's 2 months, you have to farm and harvest those 2 months to last you for the whole year. How many trees do you need to make that work for you?
It's such a good question, Joe. I mean, I'm working on it. We've got just over 3,500 trees right now. I did a map and really individually counted every single tree.
You said 3,500?
3,553 varieties. I'm not sure I need every one of those, but I also want to grow the business, right? I would like to have enough apples so that on Columbus Day weekend, when you come here, which is our biggest weekend, you don't say, they're kind of picked out. Because I'm not picked out. There's gazillions of apples. They just might not be ripe at that exact moment, right? So it's interesting to run a you-pick orchard as opposed to, say, a commercial wholesale operation where I could just say, my product is Granny Smith. I'm just going to grow a gazillion Granny Smith. Well, I can't do that because when you come to visit me on September 3rd, there's no
Right.
Granny Smith ready. Granny
And that's
Smith
probably
on
not the
November
way to go too, right? Is the better business model having people go there and pick? I mean, some of these places charge like $35 a ticket, you know. And I know yours was very reasonable. I felt like I didn't, but like I live by the Hamptons, and those apple orchards over there, that's $35 an entrance per person.
Holy moly. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a balance there, right? When people come to orchards for different things, right? Like they don't necessarily come to pick 40 pounds of apples to make apple pies for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Some people do. Those are often my weekday customers. And on the weekends, people come because they want the experience. They want the hot donuts. They want the cider. They want the feel of being outdoors. And to take care of those people, I do charge an entry fee because I've got to put a lot of staff on to help them, right? To show them which apples are where and to drive the wagon and give them a good experience. Because I want to give them a good experience. These people sometimes don't come to a farm except for once in the fall. So I want to make sure that it's a really high quality event for families. But that costs money, right? I think it's overall a better business model to be a U-Pick farm, certainly on 68 acres, right? That's not enough acres to do wholesale anything. So if you're going to farm, apples are a pretty high value product, and doing the kind of agritourism experience seems to be the best way to maximize revenue at a farm like this.
And farming is a rough business. I mean, many people have relinquished like development rights on there, and some land you can only farm on it. And because you mentioned agricultural tours, and I know from talking to other farmers over the years, that's basically how they're really able to make their money is through those tours. So it's kind of important. Like there's a guy
it's very important. Like you can only sell so many Brussels sprouts. You can only sell so many strawberries, or you got to make it an event, which is great, right? It exposes people to farming. It keeps the land in production. We talk a lot about agricultural viability. I was down at a Farm Bureau meeting a couple weeks ago, and that was the big topic. Like, how do you keep these farms viable, economically viable, not just like physically farmed, or not developed, but like really a going concern that makes the next generation of people want to come in, whether you're generationally a farmer or whether you're me and you just want to farm. That's a tough question.
What's some of the real big challenges for operating an apple orchard?
Well, first off, the weather, right? You're farming, so you're exposed to it. This year we had 9 separate rain out weekend days inside of the 2 months of high season. 9 weekend days is a lot of days to just not have people come in the door. And you can't really make that up it's not like you can turn to wholesale production all of a sudden and say, okay, well, I've got a wholesale outlet for all these apples. You really don't.
Right. But you have a farm stand, though, that you can make those products.
I have a farm stand. Right? Yep. And we sell through there. But you're just not going to get that volume back. And I know some of I was reading the New York Times coverage of that, the Hudson Valley farms that really had a tough time this year, too. Now,
do you do dehydrated apples? How many different products?
I just bought a Magic Mill dehydrator. I've been doing apple chips this year. That was fun. I have a 2-year-old.
Was that successful?
For stuff. What's that?
Was that successful? Because I go in Whole Foods all the time. I get the dehydrated fruit.
Yeah, I sold a lot of bags of them to, maybe like people who don't want to feed their kid the donuts. Right.
Yeah, they'll go for the apples.
Apple chips.
If you really want a treat, you go for that apple pie, though. So do you make jams and butters out of the apples? What else can you make out with those apples?
Yeah, I do the apple chips. I'm decorating wreaths with them. I've got like dried wreaths and stuff like that. It's Christmas season now, but apple butter, apple sauce. I don't know, everything apple. I don't make the apple butter and jams that I sell. I buy them from a small family farm down the street, but it's just not It's not my jam.
Yeah, no, I hate it. Well, it's still good. Now, is in terms of, let's say someone wants to plant an apple tree, can they plant it just in the ground? Like there's so many videos out there that said, use micro roots grower, grow it on gravel rocks, throw a PVC down in the center, fill it up with water. Yeah, right? I mean, there's everything. Is it just as simple as kind of digging it up, planting it, and watering it?
Not really. I mean, so first off, you're not going to grow an apple from a seed, right? We all know that apples do not grow true from seeds. So you buy a grafted something from a nursery. We buy from a really nice nursery up in Ithaca, New York. Called
that's a really good point, though. So you're saying that you can't just take the apple seeds out of an apple and grow a tree?
No, well, I mean, it'll grow a tree, but the apple genome is extremely diverse. And so basically the chances of you getting another Red Delicious out of a Red Delicious seed are like, I don't know, 1 in 800,000.
Oh, really?
1 in a million.
Wow.
Something. Virtually not. And the vast majority of the genome is kind of crabapple-y. It's very small, sour, pitted. It's not nice. So when you want to grow an apple tree, you take a cutting from an already existing tree and graft it to a rootstock. And the rootstocks in general, I mean, you don't really do this in your backyard. You just go buy some apple trees from a nursery. But the rootstocks are developed for sizing, right? Mm-hmm. That the standard versus the dwarfing. They are developed for water usage and for disease resistance and any number of different characteristics. And then the actual flavor of the apple is going to come from the top cutting. So when you actually, like, if you want to grow a Honeycrisp, you have to sign a licensing agreement to say, I'm going to keep this Honeycrisp and I'm not going to sell it to anyone else, because the Honeycrisp growers up in, I don't know, Minnesota, maybe those guys are, own the rights forever to the genetic material of the honeycrisp.
Even on apples, crazy? That is nuts. Like, so can you buy? Where do you buy an apple tree to start to grow, and how much does it usually cost? I mean, you're talking.
It's terribly expensive. I mean, at wholesale, it's like, I don't know, $15 to $25, maybe $35.
Yeah, so I've done some research before the call, and it seems like there's a few nurseries, I guess, that do the growing in the Midwest, and they have them for sale all the way from 7 feet tall to, it's from 3 feet to 7 feet. And apparently what was written in the description is if you buy a 7-foot tree, in 2 years you'll have crop. I don't know, but that was $80. So there was a difference between $20 on the smaller tree that they're saying is going to take 4 to 6 years, and then if you pay $80, you get the 7-foot. Is that like a scam, or is that for real?
No, I mean, they just grew it for another 2 years for you. You paid for their space to keep growing it and take care of it. And I suspect that the $80 tree is probably going to be a little bit more resilient, maybe a little easier to keep alive. But no, we make a hole. We put it in and we stand it up. They all need help standing straight, so we stake them up and we put a little bit of stone around the base and just keep them watered. Really keep them watered.
Now, what is the? I've seen that before with a lot of planting, that the stones get put around the root. Is that to keep out the rodents, or what is that?
No, the rodents, you do actually. Yeah, I take it back. You need, like, maybe not the PVC pipe, but some sort of rat guard so that the voles and the mice don't chew them up in the winter. Wow. And then obviously you got to have a fence. I had a girlfriend just planted an apple tree, and the deer took the first 2 feet right off the top.
They took the deer right off? Wow.
Ate it right. Yeah, it was terrible. So you got to be fenced somewhere. Keep the deer off.
Oh my God, how do you fence 62 acres? That's like crazy. Right? 62
I don't know. At least put a fence around the tree.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's really important. We are fenced here all the way around.
And is it just a matter of water, or do you put like some growing, like they say, fertilizers? Is that necessary?
Yeah, we're actually doing an experiment. We're hosting one with the USDA, and Rutgers and Cornell have got a research experiment going about soil mycorrhizal fungi, which is a lot of words, but basically it's like the beneficial fungi that grow in the soil that they've been kind of learning about. And there's this hypothesis out there that if you inject or like add, you can go to the garden center and get like, I don't know what the non-commercial name is, but you can like add in fungus to the soil. And supposedly that's an additive that'll help your trees grow more robustly earlier, because the fungus helps the tree root access nutrients and water from the soil more effectively than if the root did not have the fungus. And so these old trees are like super, super efficient at extracting nutrients from the soil because they have these big fungal networks operating in the soil with them. So anyways, we're host to a research project. I'll tell you in 2 years whether it works, but in the meantime, I don't know.
Well, nothing seems to come quick with an apple vineyard, with an apple orchard. Nothing comes quick.
No, it sure doesn't. I mean, it is.
You want something to work, you got to wait 4 years for it.
It's hard, right? Like you think about these varieties that are coming on the market, the Cosmic Crisp or whatever. I mean, they've been in development for 20 years for them to really be at full market production now.
So how do you market a business like an orchard? I mean, do people just kind of find you? Is there any advertising at this point?
A lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is generational. I mean, at this point, right, we've been around. Grandparents say that they came as kids and bring a couple generations worth of people. Right. So we try and really take care of our customers and make sure that it is just like a fabulous experience and want to come back. I do a little bit of advertising, very minimal, a little on Facebook for events, a little bit on, I tried Yelp. I didn't really think that was that great, but anyways, a little here and there. I do events. I've been doing line dancing and square dancing and kind of country markets, things to bring people who might not otherwise necessarily, people kind of associate apple orchards with young kids or, oh, that's not for me. I'm not in my 20s anymore.
Right.
So I've been trying to access different markets just by showing them new things that we can do, and then maybe they come back in the fall. But no, I don't do a lot of advertising. I'm just, honestly, I want people here on the weekdays. I want them here on the shoulder season. On the busiest October weekend, I can't really handle more people than what come in the door right now.
And how often do you have to water an apple tree? Does it cut off at a certain time? Like is December you just stop? I mean, do you have to water?
No, you don't have to water in December. Right when you plant, you got to water a lot. And I'm sure that there is a table out there somewhere for exactly how many inches of water per day an apple tree needs, but it's in the number of inches per day. And if you don't get that with rain, then you've got to water them, right? So we keep a really close eye on the rain gauge and pay attention. The big trees, once they're established, though, they don't need water. They just have a deep enough root system that they can access the soil, the groundwater. It's one of the things we're actually thinking about is we're planting these smaller trees that really don't get a deep root system, is whether we need to install more irrigation system to support them, which I think the answer is yes.
Wow. Now, does the government help with any kind of tax breaks for farmers, any assistance in any way? I would imagine that I've always been saying as a chef for many years, we've got to take care of the farmers, but does the government do it at all?
Yeah, I mean, they try. There's, in terms of property taxes, there's a tax break for farmland assessed property. So as long as you're in commercial production using that acreage, then it's substantially less taxes on the property taxes. But other than that, it's just a business. I mean, I get taxed at whatever the business tax rate is. Right. The USDA has some really nice programs for beginning farmers, veteran farmers, where they help you. The Natural Resources Conservation Service has some really cool stuff to help, like, I'm putting in a pollinator garden. They're going to pay for half the pollinator garden. I'm thinking about soil conservation and all of the different practices that we already do to make sure that the good soil stays on the land and doesn't wash out. The NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, pays for some of that. They'll pay for seeding for cover crops. Again, kind of like soil management stuff that honestly farmers really think about doing anyways, right? Soil's your biggest resource. You need to take care of it. But there's a little bit of help out there. And then insurance, they do crop insurance, which is heavily subsidized. So I just got myself signed up for that this year.
Good.
I'm trying it out.
Now, ever think about growing anything else on the grounds, or you're just, you're the apple queen? I mean, anything else? Corn? Pumpkins? What about pumpkins?
Yeah, so we do pumpkins. This year we did an August veggie garden. So we had beans and tomatoes and eggplants and basil. I did like 300 pounds of pesto this year.
Oh, wow.
It's terrific.
300 pounds. That's something else.
You have no idea how much pesto I made. Wow.
Now, do you sell that locally, or is that in the stores somewhere where people could try?
Yeah, I sell it through the store.
Oh, nice.
And that was good. So that extended the season a little bit, a couple weeks before the apples. We do pumpkins, we do sunflowers and zinnias, a little bit of winter cold crop. I'm doing Christmas trees this year and wreaths, and I'm trying to figure out whether.
So you're pretty much it. You're in it. What's the crop that if you had to give somebody advice that was starting a farm or is on a farm already, and you say, you know what, this is the one crop. It's profitable, it grows quick, and you don't have to worry about it too much. What would it be?
I like our sunflowers. Those are a nice, easy thing to do. The U-pick sunflowers, they're not terribly expensive. They don't take too much ground, and people pay $1 or $2 a stem for them. I think they look nice. It's like a good Instagram generation.
Yeah, definitely not blueberries or blackberries, right? That's hugely labor intensive I would imagine.
Very labor intensive. Yeah, I have in my head blueberries for another 2 years from now. And I just planted a couple of pawpaws. You ever heard of those?
No, I haven't.
It's a native fruit. It's a tree fruit. It's really tropical, right? It almost looks like a mango. It's about that shape. It grows native all the way up to northern Pennsylvania, basically. So we're right on the edge of where it grows. It's sweet and custardy, kind of like a mango consistency. It's fabulous. It's never in a grocery store because it is very, very delicate and it wouldn't ship. But you should totally find a pawpaw farmer. They're so cool.
Really?
It's like a really niche market that, I don't know, I'm working on. I planted 5 trees, and if I like them, I'm going to do more.
Nice. Now, what about greenhouses? Do you get into any of that, or would you rather just farm on the land?
It's on the list. The previous owner didn't do it. She wasn't into it. She didn't think there was enough profit in it. I think that depends on your perspective, right? Like, wouldn't it be nice? So I've been doing farm to table dinners here. We've got this cool old barn from the 1850s that we cleared out, and it's lovely. So I'm looking for crops that I can grow, even at a small scale, that I could facilitate, getting a chef out here to do farm to table with legitimacy in maybe late April, early May. And to do that, you got to have a greenhouse and really be. So we have a small one. We do seed starts and things like that in it, but nothing where we would really be doing commercial scale food production.
And no livestock. No livestock? Yeah, that's you got to be there for that.
It's like a lot.
There's a lot of work. It is a lot of work.
There are really competent livestock farmers out there. It's just, it's not us. We're the unique, totally heritage apple farm.
Good. I love it. Brand. All right. Where can everyone find more about you? Where you're located? Anything you want to plug here? Website, social media handles, anything like that?
Yeah, we're Ryamede Farm, RIAMEDE Farm on Instagram, Facebook, the website, same thing, RyamedeFarm.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I don't spam. I send out like one every week or two and talk about what we're doing, what's ripe, what's coming up, new events. Come to a line dance. I don't know. They're really fun. We did some sparkling cider. We've got a collab going with a local brewery. He's been pressing apples with us on our 1865 apple press and making beer out of it. It's so cool.
And you make the apple cider and all that stuff too?
I pressed for the beer guy. Right. Honestly, we're buying from Melix, who's a terrific partner down the street. He's got a much larger operation and a lot more apples. We basically sell every apple that we grow straight to the
on 62 acres too. That's a lot.
It's a lot of apples, but it's a lot of people, and it's spread out over, 53 different varieties. The last variety only gets ripe like November 7th. So you should come out and check those out.
I definitely will. And I think we're going to have to invite you in the studio, bring some of those apples down one day and talk more about apples.
I'd love to participate. It's
well, Ashley, thanks for being on the show and being a farmer. I always give my gratitude to farmers. It's not an easy job. Thanks for coming on the show. And we will get you in the studio, I promise.
I'm available.
Okay, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.